If you've been following along with this series, so far in our first few videos, we've been talking about very broad concepts. Let's start diving into specific positions to see how we can apply these concepts. In our passing video, we talked about the concept of pinning hips. So as I'm circling around, one way that I might be able to pin my opponent's hip is by dropping into a knee cut. This allows me to keep this side of her body pinned to the ground. But I still have some ways to go before I complete the pass. One way that I really like to control my opponents is by climbing my pins up their body. If I'm here in a knee cut and I feel like I can't deal with these hand frames, I might be able to deal with the knee shield frame by framing it back and away from me and dropping into the space. If I still feel like I can't progress forward, I can work backwards towards pinning the hips. The way I do that is by dropping into half guard. But in this half guard position, I have great control on her hips here. It's very difficult for her to move. But what I want to do, one of the key things to this position is keeping my base safe. There are still some sweep options from half guard. The way I'm going to do that is drop my base and post behind me. This post with live toes will make it difficult for her to sweep me back, and I still have control forward by controlling her hips. One thing that my partner is going to do is to try to keep this back leg trapped. If she keeps this back leg trapped, it's going to be annoying for me to pass. So I need to think about passing that, keeping my base, and climbing my controls. One way for me to weaken this lock on my legs is to walk my foot up towards her butt. From here, as you can see, it's more difficult for her to hang on as her knees go higher and higher with my leg posting closer to her butt. Now I can start thinking about climbing controls. Even if my partner is framing me away, I still want to be climbing into underhooks and different controls so I can advance further up her body. The way I can do that is I can start going for inside bicep ties to open her up. From here, I want this far underhook. The far underhook is important to me because for a half guard player, if they get the underhook, they may have opportunities to wrestle up or to regain their guard. So I get this first with an inside bicep tie, and then I can climb to an underhook. Now that I have an underhook, I can start pinning her upper body to the mat. It's not a good position for my opponent to have her shoulders pinned to the mat, but it's a great position for me. Now that I have the underhook on this side, I can start climbing the near side. I have two options here. I can go for double unders. And if I go for the double unders, I have great control here, and I want to open my elbows and post my head to the mat. Once I do that, I can tripod up. Even if she keeps the lock here, I can peel that by throwing in my own butterfly hook. Once I peel the butterfly hook, I can open her legs, I can drop into a pass, or if it's available to me, I can drop into mount. Now if we go back into that position, I'm going to do the same thing. Base behind me, climb my foot up towards the butt. This makes it harder for her to keep her lock. I'm still going to work for my underhook on this side. If I feel like I can't get the double unders here, maybe she's keeping her arm really tight to her body, I can instead go for a crossface, which is another great control. From here, I'm going to smear my chest against her face to turn her to face the other way. Spinal alignment is really important for the guard player, and when her body's out of alignment, it's going to make it difficult for her to get her frames back. From here, I have the underhook on this side. I can drop my far knee down to the mat, and this should help me to free it. From this, I can once my knee is free, I can knee cut back to the other side, and I can use my outside leg to free my foot, and now I can control my pass with the underhook. So what are the key takeaways in this position? I want to make sure that I can keep my base. I want to make sure that I can get my underhook, and then I'm pinning her shoulders to the mat. So that's what I'm thinking about as I'm going through this sequence. One issue that I want to think about when I'm going through this position is, like I mentioned before, I want the underhook and I don't want my opponent to have the underhook. As I pass the knee shield across, if she shoots her own underhook in, I need to keep my base above her so that she's unable to wrestle up on me. Once I'm there, I can start to get my own underhook back. One way I can do that is when I catch my base, I can feed this arm across to hook underneath and then shoot my underhook back once more. From here, I'm going to go through the same position. I can start to drop, pin her shoulders to the mat. If I can get my knee out, I can just finish the pass here. If I'm still in half guard, we can work through the same sequences that we had before. Cross facing, walking the knee out, and finishing our pass. So what are our key takeaways in this video? First, when we're passing, we want to keep our base safe. That means before we're starting our initial pass and also when we're diving deeper into the position. Secondly, as we're climbing controls, we want to keep pins on our opponent. If we can pin them and keep their spine out of alignment, it's going to make it easier for us to finish our pass. Third, we want to keep climbing our underhooks as we're working. Especially in a position like half guard, we don't want to give our partner an opportunity for an underhook. And finally, when we're finishing our pass, we want to end up in a position where we can pin our partner's shoulders. This will help to keep them controlled and make further advancement of our position much easier. Thanks for following along in this video, and we'll see you in the next one.